Second ticker today is Wells Fargo. This is an interesting story as well. The stock is down today after news that CEO Tim Sloan will retire. Sloan has been leading the bank since April of 2016. Following the news, Senator Elizabeth Warren tweeted, this is a company, of course, that's been in the hot seat, and Elizabeth Warren tweeted this, quote, "About damn time. Tim Sloan should have been fired a long time ago. He enabled Wells Fargo's massive fake accounts scam, got rich off it, and then helped cover it up. Now, let's make sure all the people hurt by Wells Fargo's scams get the relief that they're owed," end quote. Now, not the first time that Senator Warren has put Sloan on the hot seat. Watch this clip as well.
Mr. Sloan, you say you've been making changes at Wells Fargo for 30 years, but you enabled this fake account scam, you got rich off it, and then you tried to cover it up. At best, you were incompetent. At worst, you were complicit. And either way, you should be fired.
Yahoo Finance's Cheung is with me. Some harsh words there from Elizabeth Warren. Brian, this is a company, of course, that's been bogged down in scandal, and it was a surprise to the market that CEO Tim Sloan is resigning amidst these problems. He was only in the driver's seat, the CEO seat, for a couple of years, even though he has a long history at the company.
Right, so he joined in October 2016. This was shortly after the initial findings from the fake account scandal actually took place. And again, as you mentioned, he was someone who wasn't there for very long, but he was harshly criticized because of the fact that he was an insider within Wells Fargo during the scandal itself. He actually was serving as CFO when John Stump was heading this company. Since then, you've heard the likes of Elizabeth Warren and a number of others on Capitol Hill criticize the company for allowing someone who was there during all these issues rise into the CEO position. So as a reminder, the 2016 scandal itself, 1.5 million fake accounts that were basically opened without customers' permission, and they ended up getting fined $185 million for those fake accounts. But I do want to also note there's been a lot of other issues that Wells Fargo has faced since Tim Sloan has actually joined the company. And just to rat off a few, they repossessed service members' cars. They were caught for not lending properly to lower-income communities. They faced an asset cap. They had issues of mortgage lock settlements, refunds on insurance. The list goes on and on and on. So this is going to be a tough story, and they're going to have to find someone good to replace him.
And this is, sort of brings up the point that Tim Sloan had been an insider at the company while all these things were happening. Right. In the quest to find a new CEO, it's going to be an external search. Yeah. Who are some of the candidates?
We don't know exactly right now, but the fact that they picked an interim CEO in Alan Parker is kind of telling already. Alan Parker is an individual who's currently serving as general counsel, but he was there only at Wells Fargo since 2017, so he was not on board for a lot of the fake account scandals, although there could be some questions about to the extent what he knew in terms of the other issues that we've seen since then. But for Betsy Duke, who, by the way, is also new at Wells Fargo, she is the chair of the board, the clear thinking in having Alan Parker in the interim seat is basically signaling that they are going to look outside of the company to try to find a new person. And that is obviously going to be the most politically neutral thing to do, because if they do appoint someone from inside the company, you're going to hear the same calls from the likes of Elizabeth Warren and everyone else on Capitol Hill to say, why are you allowing people who enabled this behavior to run this company?
To perpetuate. Right. It's interesting because there are a lot of names being floated out there, some from JP Morgan, some from Goldman Sachs, some from other regional banks as well. So it'll be interesting who they eventually decide to settle with. But this is a company that definitely needs to wipe the slate clean and start over in some ways. Just very quickly, is it possible after so much scandal to do that?
Yeah, well, for what it's worth, the financial position of this company is not anything that I would say analysts are too worried about. The stock has been kind of recovering along with most of the other bank stocks through the beginning of 2019. But I did have a note also from RBC, and they actually, said, we always believed Tim Sloan was a man of strong character and integrity. And actually, there was a brief call yesterday where only a handful of analysts were able to ask questions to Betsy Duke about the search for a new CEO. And all of them seem to express...
But it's not to say that he isn't a man of strong integrity. I mean, it's not necessarily being proven that he was in any way complicit, or, he happened to be there at the time.
That's true. And I think that the commentary is more just signaling that they were supportive of his financial management of this particular company, but that ultimately some of these political pressures, and there are also questions about how involved regulators were in perhaps getting this, because as we know, the Federal Reserve does have an asset cap on this company. But, there's a kind of consensus among the sell-side analysts that he did a relatively okay job at Wells Fargo. And actually, that could be an issue for the person that comes on board, because they will be inheriting the same cost savings initiatives that he put in place.
Brian, great to see you. Thank you for that.